My Antonia Analysis, passage number 26. At the beginning of Book 2, Jim and his grandparents leave their country house farm for a house much closer to the town of Black Hawk. As soon as the move happens, Jim starts school and is quickly able to adapt to the dramatic living standard changes along with the people in his everyday life. When Jim is in town, he often sees Lena Lingard, a local dressmaker. The book moves simultaneously with the seasons, and as the start is easy, it transitions to be a bit more difficult for the people of Black Hawk when winter comes around. Many keep themselves inside, fearing the cold. In the evenings, Jim would sometimes be found prowling about and hunting for diversion. Throughout this passage, Cather uses a harsh tone where it is easily perceived through her use of imagery and similes. Cather shows how winter is viewed as an enemy to the townspeople and the negative effect it has on them, which results in a common ground place of isolation. There were no other lights burning downtown after 9 o'clock. On starlight nights, I used to pace up and down those long, cold streets, scowling a little, sleeping houses on either side, with their storm windows and covered back porches. They were flimsy shelters, most of them poorly built of light wood, with spindle porch posts horribly mutilated by the turning lathe. Yet for all their frailness, how much jealousy and envy and unhappiness some of them managed to contain. The life that went on in them seemed to me to be made up of invasions and negations, shifts to save cooking, to save washing, and to save cleaning, devices to propitiate the tongue of gossip. This guarded mode of existence was like living under a tyranny. People's speech, their voices, their very glances became furtive and repressed. Every individual taste, every natural appetite was bridled by caution. The people asleep in those houses, I thought, tried to live like the mice in their own kitchens, to make no noise, to leave no trace, to slip over the surface of things in the dark. The growing piles of ashes and cinders in the backyards were the only evidence that the wasteful consuming process of life went on at all. On Tuesday nights, the Owl Club danced. Then there was a little stir in the streets, and here and there one could see a lighted window until midnight. But the next night, all was dark again. The first thing that Willa Cather uses is imagery to show a direct correlation between the distressed people of Black Hawk and their cold, frail houses they are described to be living in. These houses ran alongside the cold streets, and they are described as being flimsy shelters, and many of them were poorly built of light wood. These houses were also able to contain jealousy and envy and unhappiness, which are traits people are able to contain, which shows that the house is more of a person than it is a house. The only thing that is the spark of light within this passage is the Owl Club that danced on Tuesday nights. This was the place where individuals could express themselves. The next thing Willa Cather does is place similes within this passage to carefully compare the living conditions and feelings of the townspeople. The people had a strange desire to avoid and deny their depressed life, to live a life of a very boring routine. This living condition is compared to a lifestyle similar to a government with absolute power, and they are viewed as living like under a tyranny. Their life had multiple rules, and rules with little room for change. Their freedom of speech was furtive and repressed. Jim saw these people as fearing their own house and living like the mice in their own kitchens, trying as hard as they can to leave no trace and to be as innocent as they can. The people that hid within their homes had the only evidence of the growing piles of ashes and cinders that were located in the backyard. That was the only small evidence that they had to show their existence indicated what exactly winter was making of them. Along with that, it shows the extreme silence lives they are carrying on to steer clear of the antagonist, which was winter. This first image I chose to represent the passage as a whole was a picture of a worn-down home. I thought that this picture perfectly fits the well-described flimsy shelters that the homes of the many people of Black Hawk have. It clearly introduces the distressed overall feeling that is present throughout the entire passage. This next image I think clearly reflects the tone and is a picture of a dark, lonely street. I picture Jim late at night, in fact, walking down this cold street, just as Cather describes he does in Chapter 7. It also shows the emptiness that many felt during this time of year. This final image that I chose to include in my image analysis is a picture of a pile of ashes. Not only did I include this because Cather uses it as a direct reference to the people's little existence, I included it also because it shows what is left physically and emotionally after people have endured the winter. All these images give the overall feeling of loneliness felt by many during the winter winds. Winter was considerably harsh to these people, and it stripped them of their pride. The distress the houses physically show is the distress the townspeople emotionally feel from their isolation. Winter, in fact, is not a person, but an antagonist-like stress on the townspeople make it seem as though there is something more to winter than it just being a season.